Have you ever thought about how a mob mentality forms? How a group of people who, on their own, are often quite good people capable of doing much good, sometimes come together and become a destructive mob, doing violence whether that's on the street or in the corporate boardroom. I wonder if it's in part because we in Western culture are very shy of correcting or challenging each other. We value tolerance. We don't want to be seen to challenge somebody else. And so if a group of young men walking home from the pub one night, one of them kicks over a garbage bin, if no one says, "Oh mate, don't do that, it's a bit silly," the next one feels free to kick over a mailbox or a street sign. Or in the boardroom, if a manager has a way of raising profits, but by not caring for customers or employees or the environment, if they don't get chastised by someone who says, "I don't agree with that," instead get a promotion or a raise, the next person is likely to do the same, and so on. And so bad actions can form and be magnified when no one is willing to challenge or correct them. I think we're all rightly scared of the H word that Jesus speaks about in the gospel today. H being, of course, for hypocrisy. Nobody wants to be considered a hypocrite. And Jesus has this very graphic, interesting image of somebody who has a log or a plank in their eye trying to take a speck or a splinter out of somebody else's eye when they've got something so much bigger in their own. This is, of course, one of Jesus' wonderful exaggerations, a bit like the camel through the eye of the needle, or cutting your own hand off, or plucking your eye out. It's an exaggeration. It's obviously not literal, but it really has quite a key point that we are if we are seeking to correct or challenge somebody else for their faults or their mistakes, we have to notice that we may do the same things or similar things ourselves. But notice, Jesus doesn't say, well, because you have things wrong, you've done things wrong in the past, don't dare challenge somebody else. Jesus, I think we often read it that way, but Jesus does not say that. Jesus says, how do you not notice the plank in your own eye? First take the plank out of your eye and then help your brother or sister take the speck out of theirs. Jesus isn't saying do nothing. No, rather Jesus is saying work on yourself, get the plank out of your eye, and then you'll be both better off yourself, but more able to help see to take the speck out of your friend's eye. And so this is a challenge from Jesus to work on ourselves, to work on overcoming whatever our faults or our vices might be, both for our own good, but so that we can then be effective and helpful for others. And this is probably nowhere seen more powerfully than the case of Alcoholics Anonymous, where it is those people who have been alcoholics themselves who are the most able to understand and help another alcoholic who is still struggling. It's a really quite wonderful ministry, which, although is not a church ministry, it really is very much the work of God in and through good people who are struggling in their own recovery. Well, this week we have Ash Wednesday, and so the season of Lent begins. And this is for us a perfect time for us to consider ways in which we can try to overcome some of those planks in our own eyes. So I invite you to consider, are there any vices, any bad habits that you have? I know I have some, but is any that you might want to use the season of Lent as a great opportunity to work on? During Lent, we are asked by the church to take up fasting, almsgiving, and prayer. And many of us have moved these days away from the idea of fasting towards the doing of good works, of prayer and almsgiving. And these are both good, but there's something still very powerful about fasting, about doing something to restrain our own desires, to develop our will to the point where we are stronger and more able to have some mastery over our own actions. Often we have great intentions, but our habits and our actions let us down. Lent is a great time for us to work on that. So I invite you to think, is there some particular area of your life you'd like to work on? We often think of fasting being fasting from food, but it can be more than that. So alcohol is an obvious example. If alcohol is an area you struggle with, Lent's a great time to make an effort to give up, even just for a time. If you struggle with recreational drug use or overuse of prescription medication, again, Lent's a great time to make a dent in that. If pornography or alcohol or gambling are the way that you is your go-to way for relaxing or to cheer yourself up, these are all areas to work on. Again, Lent can be a time to conquer one of these. For some people, our vice is overeating. For many of us, It's now something digital. It might be either online gaming or social media, or simply too much time on screen, watching videos, streaming, whatever it might be. Many of us actually find that our social lives and our prayer lives and our sleep are adversely affected by how much time we spend on screen. Apologies that you're watching this on a screen right now. But that may be for many of us, in fact it is for me, the thing that I will work on this Lent to reduce my screen time in a particular way. And so this is a time we can actually firstly seek God's help. This is not all willpower, it's inviting God's grace to help us, but to find an area of our life that we can change. Now, if giving up cold turkey is too hard, if it's too much, maybe that reducing can be a secret. It may be that to ask a teenager or a young person to give up computer games or social media completely for 40 days may be nigh well impossible, at least for them at this stage of their life. But perhaps to give up for one day a week, to say, well, I won't play computer games on Saturday, or I won't do social media on Sunday. That may be a huge step. If you drink too much, maybe it is that one day or those 2 days a week to say, I won't drink on Mondays or Tuesdays. This could be what it takes to simply, I guess, make a chink in a bad habit that allows to gradually conquer it. This is a good thing. So I invite you to use this season of Lent well, to do what Jesus asked of us, to work on taking out a log or a plank from our eyes, to reduce or conquer a bad habit for ourselves, but so we can be good for others too. If we are weighed down by some habitual bad action in our own lives, it makes us very, very shy to ever challenge somebody else. But we do need to challenge each other so we don't all just kind of spiral downwards together. We need to challenge each other to greatness, to work on it for ourselves, but to try to be bold enough to gently challenge and encourage another person. Say, hey, that's not right, or that's not good for you, or do you think this is a good thing for you? Can I help you with that? It's a great time. This Lent is a time for us to make ourselves and maybe others better as well.